Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, where two busy dads get games to the table by any means necessary. Check us out, along with other great podcasts, at dicetowernetwork.com.
Every Night is Game Night, episode 155, post-GenCon 2019 wrap-up part 2, Family Weight Games. Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, the podcast that helps you get your head in the game. This is Jason.
Hey, and this is Anthony.
Hey, there he is. He's there. Mr. Anthony, he's back.
I'm back. I'm here. I did it. I played games. I've already been doing that. I'm talking about these games.
It's been a whole summer. I moved. You did a whole bunch of stuff. It's been such a long time since you've been on the pod. Tell the people what you've been up to.
Oh, man, I don't even remember. Ask like a middle-aged dad what he's been up to. I freaking know.
A haze of kids and family.
Yeah.
I responsibilities.
I went back to Seattle for a week. I did somehow make it to GenCon, which is what we'll talk about. And then man, we went to Cooperstown to see Edgar Martinez go to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, really? You saw that? That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like, he's my guy, man. That's like, I was there for Ken Griffey Jr. because that was like the guy when I was a kid, but Edgar is baseball in Seattle, so that was pretty cool.
We just put half the audience to sleep with baseball talk. We really need...
No. They know.
I'm sure. Teaming with baseball fans. Anyway, so I kid half. Anthony is still active over at Board Gamers Anonymous. He missed a couple of episodes for various family stuff, and we had a couple of people, including myself, step in. But for the most part, you can hear Anthony's content every week over at BGA, and he stops by here when he has a steaming hot pile of games in order to review, which is exactly what we're going to be doing this week, and for a lot of weeks after this. I'm telling you guys, we have a pile of games to review. Anthony, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. But before we get into that, we have a couple items of business. First of all, as you heard last week with Colin and Steve, Every Night is Game Night has opened up a fan interaction channel over at the One Stop Co-op Shop Slack. If you don't know what Slack is, it is a messaging kind of app-based thing that you can do on your computer, your phone, and you could just live chat a lot of people. There's a whole lot of people in that forum. You can go into their folder, you can go into my folder and just interact. We've had a lot of great conversations. Go ahead and hit it up, the One Stop Co-op Shop Slack. I have a link in the show notes. And Anthony also has a Slack with BGA. I will let him describe the BGA Slack and Patreon and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we do a Patreon. Helps us get the show out every week. Obviously, there's a bunch of costs that are associated with hosting and putting out all this content. So it helps us out with that. We also run a contest every week for anybody who is a Patreon backer. So we give away a game every single week.
What?
Every single week.
Is it a bad game or is it a good game?
Oh, it's a good game. It's a good game. So Game Surplus is helping us out with this. So cool. They have a nice, healthy list of games for us to choose from, and people have been surprised almost every time I send them the list. Like, wow, these are really good, actually. So, yeah, it's a pretty awesome contest. I put up like fun, goofy stuff on the Patreon every Thursday, like find these game designers, look at these components, send us a photo, that kind of stuff. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty easy. And then, of course, if you're on the Patreon, you are also in the Slack group, which is just for backers and a select few VIPs, and we talk about all the stuff. And I usually, if I have questions about like what episodes to do or what people like or whatever like that, that's where I go first. So it's fun.
That's me. I'm a BGA VIP. Woohoo!
Yeah.
So lots and lots of ways to interact with Every Night is Game Night, with Board Gamers Anonymous, One Stop Co-op Shop, big happy family. One Stop Co-op Shop does have a Patreon. So, I mean, not going to ask too much of you guys. I know that money is tight for a lot of people, but, these are, hosting the podcast, you get it for free. And if you could donate or help out in any way, we would definitely appreciate it. All right. So before we get to the main of the show, you guys know what goes on. We get to Liz in the Liz We Trust segment. Liz will share about another awesome Kickstarter that she has been perusing right now.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here to encourage your Every Night is Game Night acquisition disorder. This week I want to talk about Squire for Hire, designed by John Merchant. Squire for Hire is a micro game for 1 to 2 players that consists of only 18 cards. You are a squire who is managing a hero's bag, and the game involves both tile laying and getting the best items and loot, while also sifting out junk. Your goal is to score the most points by making sure your knight's bag has maximum awesome stuff with minimal junk. I enjoy this sort of Kickstarter project. It's by an independent designer and has a cute theme with adorable animal art. You didn't think you'd be a human squire, did you? Plus, the price is right at $10 US plus shipping. If this sounds like your kind of campaign, check it out before it ends on September 30th. Happy gaming!
All right, so I actually know what the Kickstarter is this week, but I still don't because it's something that I really haven't heard of. But as we like to say, in Liz we trust. Liz, I'm going to trust you on this one. I've never heard of it. It is called Squire for Hire.
No.
Okay. So Liz told us all about Squire for Hire. I'd never heard of it. I'm going to go check out the Kickstarter page as soon as we're going to finish up with this episode. So go ahead and check that out. Thank you very much, Liz. But we have a lot of business to get to. I'm going to let my man Anthony stretch out those vocal cords. He hasn't been on ENGN for a little while. Yep. Go. All right. He is going to tell us about the first game, a bunch of family weight games, kind of fun for the families. What'd you get out of GenCon? Last week we had a bunch of family games. I mean, that's just what you get. For the heavier games, we're going to have to go to Essen for that, which will be in, as we record this, about a month. So, but we're going to get to the family stuff, and we are going to get to Parks, which is the first game on Anthony's list.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like GenCon, they'll have a handful of big stuff, and that's the stuff I look for. But often the things that surprise me and make me happy when I get home and finally get a chance to play them are the things that are a little bit lighter, a little bit more for the family, that just look cool, so I pick them up. So got a few of those today. First up is Parks, like Jason said. This is designed by Henry Audubon, and artwork is from the 59 Parks print series. If you haven't seen the 59 Parks print series, it is a series of beautiful, beautiful paintings and posters for each of the 59 national parks. So it's got all the parks in there. This is from Keymaster Games. They've done a few smaller games before, but this is like the biggest one they've done yet. And it was on Kickstarter, so it has like all the Kickstarter fanciness going on in the box.
It better.
This one was, yeah, right. We'll get to that.
We're over the next couple of episodes. We may be remarking on a couple of board game prices that have been going on. So just giving you guys a heads up for that.
Yeah, pricing. I always like to include pricing in my reviews because I think it's important. I think a lot of reviewers skip over that, and
sure,
most of you guys need to know that. So I think it's important to know value for cost. But first things first, we'll get to the game. This is a game about going for hikes in the woods and discovering different things on your way to visit all these different national parks. So you have 2 little hikers. They move along this trail of different cards, and the cards represent like, the forest and sunset and the ocean, all sorts of cool stuff you can see. And on your turn, you're going to very simply move one of them and then take the action of the tile you land on. You have to move forward, obviously, and you can only go on a tile with another meeple one time. You'll flip over your campfire. It's the only time you can do that. So most of the time you have to go to an empty space. When you get to the end of that track, you will then be able to choose one of a few options. You can buy a canteen, which is like a cool resource swapping thing. You can buy these special equipment to give you bonus actions and special stuff. And then, of course, you can visit the parks. And to visit the parks, you have to trade in a certain number of resources, which you'll get from those other actions you just took, and you'll take it into your hand. The parks are these big, amazing-looking tarot cards with those 59 Parks print series images on them. As someone who grew up out west and has been to like a dozen of these parks, these are fantastic. Like, it was just fun for me to look through them and see like all these different places I went to when I was a kid, like Yellowstone and Mount Rainier and Cascades. And I feel like that's the main draw of the game for most people. Mechanically speaking, it's well made. It's clever. It's got like that Takedo bit in there where like the person in the last is going to try to jump up and maybe take a couple extra actions. And with more people, of course, the game's a little bit more interactive because there's less space on that path for people to move around. So maybe you move guy forward and hope that other people move out of your way so you can take another guy and take extra actions. But at the end of the day, it's move a dude, take an action, and you're just trying to collect the resources so you can do the things you want to do. Production-wise, it is very beautiful. Like I said, big, pretty cards, thick cardstock. You have like big, chunky resources. All of the different types of things you'll see are, woodcut and colored. There's like little animal tokens that are all different types of animals for no particular reason, and all they are is wild resources. But there's
a great reason for it. It is called Kickstarter.
Yeah, exactly. This was a Kickstarter, you can tell. And it's got game trays, of course, which this is not a game that needs them. And it's like you look at it and you're like, wow, this is beautiful. It's amazing. This is a lot of fun. It's a great family game. I'm going to keep it since I got it. But then you look at the price and it's like, ugh, it's like $55. So it's hard to justify this little tiny box. It's not even a full-size box costing that much money. And of course, it's just because of how much stuff comes in the box. Mm. Now, if you get it on Kickstarter, I think it was like 40 or 45. So it's a little closer to being a reasonable price. I would say like 35 or 40 is what I would expect for like a game of this weight and replayability. But it's also difficult because you do have this fantastic artwork and the theme is really well integrated, at least for this type of game. And I don't know. I like having it on my shelf. I like looking at it. I like showing it to people. Like when I got home, this is one of the few games I pulled out and showed to my wife, who generally does not care, just to say, look at the pretty cards. It's just a shame that it's so expensive and probably it's going to price a lot of people out of picking it up. That said, the line at GenCon was crazy long and they sold out every day. So we'll see. I don't know. It might go to full distribution and just, do amazing. But this price, I'm all messed up on prices these days because these companies are charging so much for so many of these games and people are still paying it. But I feel like at a certain point, people are going to pull up and maybe stop doing that. So
we'll see. So that was Parks. A casual game, in the box, and I guess limited replayability. You might go through a couple times and be like, okay, that was good. You're in it for the aesthetic experience for the most part.
Yeah, you're not going to see all of the park cards in any one game, and you do have different, like, hiking tiles that'll come out every game. Like, it's random which ones go into that pile. There's a few that are always there, then, like, extra ones that are random. But for the most part, yeah, it's pretty light, and it's fairly familiar each time you go through it. So it's great for families, but for your gamer group, it might get a little old fast.
Okay. All right. So the next game I'm talking about also is a game that takes a famous piece of art, so to speak, and makes a game out of it. So instead of beautiful, painted, whatever, this one takes the periodic table of elements and plops a game right on top of it. I am talking about Periodic, a game of the elements, designed by John Caveyu, published by Genius Games. We reviewed Genius Games on here before. I reviewed Subatomic. I really liked it. I'm really digging what the Genius Game project is, which is to make these really fun, family weight, accessible games that teach you about science. And I laugh because you look at the back of the box, which is something I did when I was demoing this game at a game store, and there are more PhD scientist contributors than there are playtesters listed. So I should tell you everything you need to know about the approach to science in the game. So was it a good game? So what Periodic does is it looks at the periodic table and says, wow, this is a really cool game board. I want to plop a game on top of this game board. It's not really a game that puts you in any kind of thematic space. So like Subatomic did that. It was a deck builder, but it put you in this role of a scientist building an atom, and you had a separate board. You build up the atom and everything, and you almost felt like kind of a scientist experimenting, creating atoms, all that kind of stuff. Here, it's a very, very abstracted experience. So you're going to be controlling, basically a little beaker meeple thing, and you're going to be directing it to different elements on the periodic table of elements. The goal is to, every move that you make, you're going to be landing on an element and you're going to be accomplishing goals. So let's say you want to accomplish the goal, which is making salt. Salt is sodium chloride, NaCl. So on one turn, you're going to be taking your vial, putting it on Na. The next turn, you're going to be taking your vial, putting it on Cl. And you have these kind of action selection style of ways of moving in a very abstract fashion, moving the beaker around the board. So like you put NaCl, boom, I got NaCl. You take that goal, you get another goal. And then you're just going to be doing that. The person who completes the most goal gets the most points and wins the game. So that's a really simple thing. However, so here's the kind of rub in which kind of takes it a little bit above like a pure family weight, just nothing, and actually makes a game out of it. So the action selection system is based on these energy things. You spend an energy, you put it on a space, and you're able to move in the direction of whatever the arrow is pointing. You could put the energy down, you can move, to the right and to the left, or to the right and down. And then, you could put another energy down, you could put, move another space. What you're trying to do is you're trying to manage your energy, because in this game, it's possible to save up enough energy to do like a big turn. So you can, you at some point you're going to be taking energy and you can just move off of that. And that's like one action. But then if you have enough energy, you can go bam, 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 and like complete one goal, or like, make progress towards another goal, ninja a goal away from somebody who was working on something. Because you saved up enough energy, you can go, wow, wow, wow. I was like, I did this thing, I got a bunch of points, and then, you kind of move on along your way. So you're timing that. So you're looking for your opportunity to do that. You're managing your energy. You're watching the board. You're saying, okay, who can do that to me? Oh my God, this person has a whole bunch of energy, and they could just sneak this thing right away. I'm just going to pop my Nova turn a little bit early, get that goal, make sure I get it before that other person gets it. Wow. So thematically, in terms of the thematic headspace that you're in, there's no real theme. Like, you're not a scientist. It has a great setting, so I have to distinguish between theme and setting. The setting is the periodic table. That's it. And it's very beautiful. It's very, big and bright and colorful and that kind of stuff. They really did a great rendering, not like my high school that just had like the washed out, 30-year-old periodic table that had like peat stains on it and everything. A big honking board full of periodic table. Great setting. Very beautiful production. Theme is not there. There is no, to me, there is no theme. You're not doing anything. You're not an actor in any way. You're not a scientist. However, it makes you happy to play it. It makes you happy just to be there. And then strategically, it kind of steps in and says, here's a very simple kind of pay attention to the board, pay attention to what's going on. Here are the decisions. You can either stack up a bunch of energy and like, just kind of wait lurking to do that Nova turn, or you could just, kind of watch all the other people, get your goals in there, or you have secret goals, you can kind of accomplish that. Lots and lots of buttons to push. I really, really enjoyed this. I played with another player who was from France, I think it was. And he's like, typical American game. It is beautiful, and then you get screwed out of your turn every time. I'm like, I guess that's right. I guess it's an abstract, but it is a typical American game. I mean, there's a lot of luck. There's a lot of screwage. You can work on something and then all of a sudden someone just kind of, yoinks in there and takes what you're doing. It's not a hugely strategic game. It's very, very tactical. I'm cool with that. Are you cool with Ticket to Ride where you're working on a route and all of a sudden someone just like sneaks in and, plops a train route right in the middle of what you were working on? That's pretty mean, but it's fun and it's satisfying. I would put this in the same vein as a Ticket to Ride. Obviously, Ticket to Ride is a classic for a reason. This is not like to that level, but it will scratch that itch in your family. And if you love science, or if you want to teach science to your kid, if you want to just like play on a periodic table and then like 5 games in, they know what that Na equals sodium and and like all the different what is lead is plum bum, PL or something like that. They'll learn that. Man, oh my goodness. So I know you're not particularly a science guy, but you have kids and I'm sure you're interested in this kind of stuff. I mean, how are you with Genius games in general, and how does this sound in particular?
You know what? I've never actually played any of their stuff. I've always meant to. Like, it looks good. I just, I don't know. I don't know if it's not the right group. My kids aren't quite old enough or what it is, but like as a family thing, I'd love to play this kind of stuff. My wife would love it too, which is a bigger incentive. But the kids aren't quite old enough to wrap their heads around it. So I think maybe in a couple of years.
You're going to want to pick this up. I mean, I would, depending on what you like. I mean, they have worker placement, they have deck building, they have the, social deduction, they have all sorts of stuff. A party game was kickstarted this year. In terms of like abstract strategy with a beautiful kind of sheen to it, I think this one will be a little bit more in your wheelhouse, so I really do recommend it. And for anybody who that appeals to, that is periodic, game of the elements, definitely a recommendation. I'm definitely going to keep my copy. All right, so that was 2 games. We are going to launch into another game. I believe that Anthony was pleased on some level with his plays of this game, but we are going to check it out. This one is Villagers.
Yep, it's Villagers, designed by Hika and Gardner, and it's from Sinister Fish Games, so it's a first-time developer, and he did the artwork as well. So it's got kind of a sleek, modern look to it that's kind of striking. A lot of people kind of jumped on it for that, honestly. And yeah, the designer gets credit there as well. The game itself is about founding a village in the Middle Ages after the plague. So essentially, everybody's dead. And all the villagers are eradicated, and you're just kind of wandering around, and you're like, I'm going to found a new village, and you're trying to capture and gather people from the road who are wandering around to come live in your village and help rebuild it. There are a lot of different people, of course, on the road, and this results in kind of a drafting mechanic. So on your turn, you will be selecting different cards from this tableau and going around and just grabbing them as you go. And then on your turn, personal turn, after the draft is over, you'll be playing them down into your village. The key mechanic of the game, though, is the chaining system. This is the most important part. So you're going to play one of 3 different craftsmen down, in addition to like the founder that you start the game with. And there are different cards that are going to chain off of those. So, for example, if you have a miner, which is a basic craftsman card, and you play these for free, you just discard a card from your hand and play one of these down. You don't have to pay anything or do anything. On top of that card, you can play any number of other cards. And these other cards will tell you what you need to play it on top of and how far they can chain down. So, for example, you could get a blacksmith and play it on top of the miner. And then you could get a glass blower or a jeweler and play it on top of the blacksmith. And only the top card in that chain is going to do anything. But the top card, the higher you get, they tend to be better, right? So, if it goes up to 4 deep, which some of them can, like there's a fromager, for example, that goes from like milkmaid to all these different levels, then once you get to that level, it's just worth a ton of points because presumably you're getting that towards the end of the game. The game is on a timer. There are several different decks of cards that are kind of lined up, and you're going to have 2 scoring rounds. So after the second deck empties, you will do an intermediate scoring where you just count up all the gold that's out there, and you get those points. And for the secondary, the final scoring, you'll count up the gold and the silver, and the silver icons are all like endgame scoring. So it's, you know when the scoring is coming, but it can also kind of sneak up on you because those cards are going to deplete at a relatively normal pace. But when people discard cards back, whether they're doing that to play something, then the decks can go back up. And you choose which deck you discard into. So that's kind of an interesting mechanic. The other thing that's interesting here is just the fact that everybody can draft a different number of cards. So if you put out, at the beginning of the game, everybody can draft 2, but then you can put food icons out, and you'll be able to draft up to 5. So the more people that do that, the faster the game goes. The same as goes for buildings. So if you have little building icons, you can build more stuff than the 2 that you would normally be able to build on your turn. So it's a lot of different things that kind of push and pull. And the result is that the game has a rhythm, but it's not a consistent rhythm. It's sometimes you get a little bit more time, you build up your engine, and sometimes it just goes boom, 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 and the game is over really quickly. So it's a problem, I think, a lot of the time, especially the more players that play it, the faster it seems to end. I really like the mechanics of it. I really like the locking mechanism. Like some cards are locked until you pay the resources to whatever unlocks it. So maybe you need like a blacksmith to unlock a certain card that builds a certain type of metal goods. And if somebody has a blacksmith, you pay them. If nobody has it, you pay the bank. Those things are cool. It's a lot of fun. You can chain a lot of different things off of each other within your tableau. Awesome stuff. But 9 times out of 10, it feels like the game ends a little bit too early, which is, it's just my one problem, but it's a significant problem that keeps popping up. So it's something where there are a lot of...
especially at higher player counts. Like, you can specify that because you said before, I mean, the game adds more cards in the top tableau with more players, but it's like 5 more cards. And one more player will use more than 5 more cards and rush that end game.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And I played one game where nobody got over 1 food. Like, everybody played really light on food. So we only were drafting 2 or 3 cards each, which kept the game a little bit longer, and everybody was kind of on the same rhythm. I played another game where one guy jumped up to 5 food and 5 buildings really early, had a huge hand of cards, and was just throwing stuff down in front of him, left, right, and sideways. And that sucked because he destroyed us all. So that's not like a balance issue. That's just like he got the good cards. It's a drafting game. That's what happens in a drafting game. Right. But it still sucked. So That stuff happens. There are a bunch of other cards that come with this. I think there's like 1 or 2 expansions just out of the box, and then like the Kickstarter edition had a few more. And some of those kind of help with that. There's like some more player interaction type stuff where you can take other people's cards or kind of interact with each other. It's nothing huge, but it does add a little bit of rhythm breaking stuff to the game where you're not just like picking up a ton of cards, putting down a ton of cards, and ending the game quickly. The solo game is also kind of cool. It has like I guess you'd call it an AI, but not really. And there's just like event cards that come out every round. There's like a summer deck and then a winter deck. And so the first half with the summer deck, they're not too mean. Some of the events are even kind of nice. The winter deck, they all suck. So just bad things happen. It breaks the rules, usually at your detriment. You just kind of have to work around it. And I found it pretty clever. It was a fun way to play it, but it was even shorter. So
it's probably I did get a chance to play it, both multiplayer and solo, and it's probably the best solo drafting bot that I've seen. And it's very hard to do that because in a drafting game, like the whole art of it is that, people are choosing and has to be kind of an active mind and people are looking at, what's advantageous for their tableau. And if it's a real person, then it can make the decisions fast. When you do a drafting bot for a drafting, when you do a bot for a drafting game, then it could go a couple of ways. One, it could be really dumb and just cheat and take the best card or take a card and score random points and everything. The fan bot for Seven Wonders Duel works that way. It's just like a dumb bot that just takes cards and scores. Which is fine. Actually, that part is like, it's fine for being simple and for learning the game. So I'm not against those. It's just for a product that is, it's fine for a fan solo, put it that way. It's not something I want to pay for. So then you can also go the route of kind of a flow chart, where it's like, okay, you're actually playing the game and, kind of listening to the priorities. Like, okay, if they have this, draft this. If they have that, draft that. And that's not fun. That's just a lot of management. This one kind of takes a little bit more of a middle course where it's simple, but I did find that, because you have to draft for the enemy, but instead you're basically kind of building your best hand and you're building the worst hand that the enemy can get. It's like, here, have the worst card that I don't think combos with anything else. Okay, and you have to make that choice. So the fact that I have to make the choice made it a little bit difficult for me, but at the same time, it wasn't that bad. Again, it doesn't last very long, and the summer and winter events were pretty clever in the way they're integrated. So I don't think there's a perfect way to do a solo bot for a drafting game, but if you're going to do one, and this game decided to because it's a Kickstarter, then I don't think you can do much better than this.
I agree. Yeah, I liked it a lot. My only problem with it is just the same problem I have at every player count is that the game ends pretty early. Like, just the cards run out. And in the solo game especially, there are very few cards up there in the tableau coming out. It's just set up for, like, what a 2-player game would be. Yeah. So you run through them real fast. And especially because you're going to want to load up as many draws and plays as you can get so that you can combat whatever's going to happen to you from those event cards, because sometimes they'll just remove stuff from your tableau. And the game was over so fast. It was like 10 minutes. So I don't know. Like, I like this a lot. It's so short. Okay.
Right. Which is another weird balance, right? I mean, too short and it's not satisfying. Too long and it's like, ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Imperial Settlers had that problem of like that last round takes a long time, whether it's multiplayer or solo, and it's kind of brain burning and the complexity just got away from you really fast. And so the game wanted to avoid that, but it may have gone the other way, with the design.
Yeah, and I guess from like my perspective, I love Imperial Settlers, and I played that solo dozens of times back in the day, so I want there to be that ramping complexity and kind of puzzling out the best possible solution. So, and I don't mind a shorter one, obviously, because I don't want a solo game always to be 45 minutes long. That's crazy. Right. But 10 or 15 it's a little light. So, but I do like it. I do like Villagers. I'm going to keep it. I think it's like it'll be a good way to like introduce drafting to my kids. I think it's quick and like not as they're a little bit older, not like a Sushi Go level. It's fun. I just wish it'll be a little bit more content. I want to build up my engine. I want to run it.
Mm-hmm. All right. At I think about as good a solo bot for a drafting game as you're going to get. Okay. So, that was 3 games that we like on some level. Now we have, I think Anthony knows what's coming with this.
Yeah. Time for Jason to be a downer.
Oh man, I spoiled it right away. Actually, I really gotta watch that. But whatever, I go back and forth on that. Okay, so this is Tiny Epic Mechs. This was designed by Scott Alms, published by Game Games. Just like every other Tiny Epic Mech, I believe this is the 7th Tiny Epic in the line. So, as Tiny Epic has evolved, a couple of things have happened. One, you get the item meeple place. Like every game, every one of the more recent games has meeples, and they had the little things that you put into the meeples. So in Tiny Epic Mechs, there's gonna be guns, and there's gonna be sword, laser swords and that kind of thing. So you're gonna be putting those in the meeples, and then the innovation here is that there are little robot suits. So you get to put your meeple in the robot suit, and eventually there's like a bigger mega mech type thing, and you can go into that and walk around and have a great time. So the toy factor in here is just unbelievable. And if you looked at the Kickstarter page and, the preview stuff, then, you just saw, a lot of like mech combat, and the meeples were like, shooting each other and jumping out of the way and everything. It kind of like gave you the impression that this is going to be a really exciting, combat driven game. Like you're going to be really like kind of fighting each other. This is a mech combat arena, kind of rock'em sock'em type thing. Not quite. So it's more of a kind of slower paced area control game with a programming element. So, this could have just been an area control game, but, it's mechs, so, because they have to have the item meeple. So, when you have mechs, what do you have? You have programming. So, in order to do your turn, so on your turn, you have 8 cards, and they each indicate some kind of action. So, you're going to lay 4 cards down secretly at a programming line, and then you're just going to fire off those cards one at a time. So, you go left, and then you collect a resource, and the board is basically just cards with numbers on them. So you go left, you collect the resource depending on what the number is on the card that you landed on. You go down, and then you lay a mine. Laying a mine is scoring points, and if your enemy lands on there, it does a little bit of damage. Then you turn right, go, and you lay a turret. So then the turrets are like mines, a little bit more graduated, but kind of slightly different rules, but kind of same concept of damage on the board. You now control the area. And then you have upgrades. Once you're at a level of energy or credits, you can buy bigger swords. You can stick them on your have two weapons. Once you get into your mech suit, you can have 4 weapons, and once you get into the bigger mech suit, you can just go gonzo. Okay, so right now you're just kind of moving around and everything, and then you get to what I thought would be the exciting part of the game, which is combat. So then I remember this. I played this at a friend's house, and I played this a couple of times just to kind of make sure of my opinion, which is probably should do that. But I remember I was really excited. It's like, let's do it. And then I'm going to play my thing. And I played the jump card. I jumped right into him, and I hit him with my sword. And the guy's like, okay, your sword is exhausted. Now what? I said, what? Your sword can exhaust? Like, yeah, your sword's exhausted now. Oh, wait a minute. You don't have another follow-up weapon? Okay, you take damage and you retreat. What? I thought this was mech combat. It's like, not really. It's a resource management game. So that's really what it is. So they turn damage into a resource to be managed. So it isn't like you could just whack somebody with a sword or, duck and move. It really is like, okay, you enter into this combat thing, and who has the most weapons, and who has, there's a paper, rock, scissor thing where, if you are a melee weapon versus a ranged weapon, you get area attacks. And it's like, there I go with I'm starting to get the sigh going when I don't love a game. Oh my god.
It's I'm with you, man, because when you don't like a game, not only did you not like it, but you spent all that time playing it. So
okay, so let me be really clear right here. This was not a review copy. I wanted to review this though because I backed it, and I really Scott Alms and Michael Coe have been on the show twice before, and I think Scott is a is a great guy. Michael Coe is really cool, and he's really very giving to the podcast. He's, contributed audio clips and everything. These are good dudes, and they're credit to the game industry. I have all the motivation in the world to kind of want to like this game and give it its bet. I can't. I can't, and the reason I can't is kind of going back to the thing that I've been working on, which is this kind of what's the player experience? What's my headspace when I go into this game? And to me, the headspace is all wrong. My right brain, my thematic, my desire to kind of be in an imaginative space is just giving me all these mixed signals of I want to, I want to be in a combat space. Tom Basson made this point, and I'm just kind of like elaborating on it a little bit. I got gassed up, and I really want this to be a Rock'em Sock'em game, and it's just not. Like, the game almost punishes you for being too aggressive. Like, you really have to build up your resources and have that all in line, and have your sword whipped out, and look at the other person what they're wielding, and it's like, I don't want to do that, And even the programming, in other games, other programming games, there's this kind of like whimsical idea to it, where it's like, I think of a game like Robo Rally or even Mechs vs. Billions, where it's like, you play it and then something awesome might happen, unexpectedly. You have a general idea of what's going to happen, but then a couple of things moved into place, and then it's like, boom, wow, there's none of that here. There's no pop. There's no, the programming is so kind of, they toned down a lot of it to kind of get rid of the terrible things that could happen, but they also got rid of the really exciting things that could happen too. It's just kind of this, I don't even know why you're programming most of the time. I think a lot of the times it's like, if you happen to get hurt, then it'll mess up your programming, but if you don't, you're just kind of like, okay, move and melee of mine, move and, This game, on the BGA scale, it's a dodge. It's a matrix dodge. It is don't. And this game is close to a burn. I really don't like this game. I don't like saying that. I hate saying that because Michael Cohen and Scott Adams are good dudes. But I just thought that the thematics of the game don't give access to what could be a good game. I don't know how good a game this is. Maybe you don't care and you want to just play an area control game with programming. I can't even tell you how good the game is at that because the thematics of it just shut me out that hard. And don't even get me started on a solo. The solo has you automating 2 bots. The rules are 3 pages long with 8-point font. Hard pass. Tiny Epic Mechs. Yeah, let me stop before I get too keyed up. I didn't think it was worth it, so I can't even I can't even say do one of those things where it's like, oh, it might be for you. I don't think so. I think there's just much better programming. There's much better combat. There's a game called Volt that I'm thinking of. Volt is a game by Emerson Matsuuchi, one of his first games. He just released a second edition, or it's floating out there. There's a recommendation for you. There's all sorts of games that are alternatives. I don't think this one is worth a look, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel like as soon as I switched to those item meeples, it went downhill hard. So I think it was Quest that turned me off first. I haven't really loved any of the Tiny Epic games, but I appreciated the first few. And I liked Tiny Epic Galaxies, but the last handful have just been like, I don't know, man.
I think because of the item meatballs, it's making them a lot of money. You could tell the Kickstarters are just that much more lucrative with the item meatballs. And Michael Coe has a trademark on it, so you're going to get lots of those. I feel like it just locks you into a product model, and it locks you into a style of game. And I think the Tiny Epic is too small for that type of game, that kind of area, whatever. And this one didn't feel cramped. Tiny Epic Zombies did feel cramped. This one didn't feel as cramped. It just wasn't. I just didn't like what I was doing. So
I just wish these guys would make something in the middle, right? Because you have all these Tiny Epic games where it's just a little too small to do what the game's trying to do, and then they're like, okay, fine, we'll make Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. It's like, no, it's too much. It's too
$1 billion.
It's so big. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Just make a game in the middle that's like $50 and I can fit on my table. It'd be great.
$50 game, that'll get you a party game at this point.
Yeah, well,
$50.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
Yeah, so past the Tiny Epic Mechs, I'm kind of out on Tiny Epic at this point. Tiny Epic Tactics is the next one. I'm hearing good things about it, but I have to hear amazing things for me to be back. Yeah, that's it. Gonna move on. So I'm gonna move on to a game that actually made Anthony very, very happy. I was very happy to put this on the list. This game doesn't quite have an official solo mode, but like a lot of dexterity games, you can just play with it, and it's fun. And I'm sure Anthony has played with it more than a couple of times.
Yeah. Why would
All right, so we are going to get to our friends over at Hub Games. This is Megacity Oceanea.
Yep, this is like you said, Megacity, and it's based on a design by Jordan Draper, Tokyo Jitaku, which was in his Tokyo series, his first one, Kickstarter, which Tokyo Metro was like the core game in that, but Tokyo Jitaku was one of the options. And I did like all in back that. So I have that little one with the die cut wood pieces. And so they took that basic idea of the plans and those little die cut wood pieces and stacking them up in funny ways. And he worked with Michael Fox and Hub Games, and they've created this much larger, much prettier production in which you are now building a city in 22nd century Australia for some reason. Because why not?
There has to be a good reason, man.
Yeah, I wish I knew what it was. Maybe it's climate change. I don't know. But the whole idea here is, yes, it is a dexterity game. You are building a city with these crazy-looking pieces. So on your turn, you're going to take one of several actions. You're going to acquire building tiles. There's a bag full of them, and they come in 3 different types of materials. So you have like glass and steel and just all these different things, and they're color-coded, and the texture is actually a little bit different on them too, so you can tell what's what. And they are all very different shapes. Some of them are long and skinny, some are wide, but they're all cut funny. Nothing is square, nothing is round. They're all done in such a way that they're difficult to stack, no matter how you do it. You are also going to pick up the specific contracts that are going to tell you like what type of building to build, how tall it needs to be, what features it needs to have, and then like the actual like the foundation of it, which is usually color-coded and has little dots on it to tell you where you need to start your foundation. You will go around and do this on your turn. Just that'll be the action you take until you're ready to push a building out. And when somebody else is playing, you get to keep building your thing. You just fiddle with your stuff, right? That bag passes around the table really fast. And so you'll come to you take your action real quick, and you go back to fiddling with your stuff and trying to build something up. And you can have multiple foundations out and try to work on them simultaneously, but there's a limit on how many pieces you can have. I think it's like 14. So you can't just like build a whole bunch of buildings and just wait on it. You want to do like one and get it out there. When you're ready, you will very slowly push that tile, the hex, out into the middle of the table. And
oh my God, what a tense moment.
It's such a tense moment. It's like a foot and a half, 2 feet
oh
away.
My God.
And it cannot fall down while you're doing this. Once you connect it to the city, once you slide it in and you let go, if it collapses immediately, you're fine, right? As the architect, you've done your job. That's not really how any of this works in the real world, but you've done your job. So it's if you're pushing it out, though, and it collapses, you just lose your turn. You just wasted an action. You don't get the thing. You bring it all back. You try over. And that's not great. So the game kind of, it swings around the table really quickly until somebody's ready to do this, and everybody pauses, and they slowly push it out there. And part of this game is just dealing with the fact that people are going to bump the table. And that maybe can cause some screaming matches, but it's in the rules. Just like, build a sturdier building, right? Don't build something so flimsy that falls down if somebody breathes on it funny. And so that's
I can barely manage even that.
And when you put it out there, you are going to take this measuring stick they give you. You're going to see how tall it is. Make sure it matches your contract. But also, if it's the tallest building out there, you get bonus points. If it is all one type of material, you get bonus points. If it matches certain other criteria, you get bonus points. There are like actual strategic elements to this game that you don't usually see in a dexterity game, like the types of contracts you pick up, the types of tiles you get, when you take those things, because they're all finite, how many of them are out there. So you might grab one even if you don't need it, just to make sure nobody else can get it and that you can build it later. It gives a little bit of thinkiness to a game that, in essence, is really just stack stuff and hope it doesn't fall down. And I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, it reminded me of junk art in a lot of ways, because you're just stacking things, but with a lot more layers around it, and just felt like more of a game. And then at the end, like, the thing in the middle of the table looks really cool unless someone knocks it over. So I really like this game a lot. It is, it's not crazy expensive. I don't remember exactly what it was. Like, from Hub Games, I think it was 60 or 65 or something, but I think Asmodee might be publishing it in the US, so it'll probably still be 65.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't think it's going to be super crazy, and it's got a lot of plastic in the box, so take that for what you will. Flick them up in junk art. When you got the wood versions, those were 70, so I think it's in that ballpark. Good game. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's a really solid dexterity game. I think people are going to like it, and looking forward to this hitting like the normal store shelves outside of the cons. People can get a chance to give it a go.
I'm looking forward to it. I like junk art. a kind of a forgotten game from a couple years ago in terms of dexterity stacking. This one seems more dynamic, more moments of tension, movement, and all that kind of stuff. So looking forward to this one.
It feels like more of a game. Like Junk Art it's a game, of course. Like you're trying to do a thing and, work against whatever I don't know. Junk Art is almost like, here's a box full of mechanics and possible ways you can play them. Go for it. Whereas this is, here's a game. Now play this game, this strategic thing that you're trying to do. And it's fairly light for that, but it's still like a fully contained game with victory points and everything else. So I really like that.
All right, so that was 5 family weight games, 4 of which were made us happy, 1 of which, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to do a 6th game in this spot, but then I asked a couple of ENGN listeners, would you be interested in listening to a review of Monopoly Socialism? And they're like, nah, we're okay. It's Monopoly. How interesting could it possibly be? So, I mean, I have some thoughts about it, and I did record after I played the game with a friend of mine, Gary Pope. We had a lot of fun with it, and we did record a little bit of impressions, so to speak. But it doesn't seem like a lot of people are interested. So you know what? I'm going to split the difference. So we'll end the episode right here, and then after the music, we'll play just play the clip with Gary. I'm assuming, Anthony, you don't have any particular deep thoughts about the endeavor of Monopoly Socialism.
I think it's dumb, but I wish I'd at least gotten a chance to see it or play it before they pulled it, just to see what all the hubbub is about. But I also think it's dumb. But also, Monopoly, Hasbro lately, I don't know what they're doing, because that's not the only stupid version of Monopoly they put out. So.
As we record the episode, Monopoly Women was announced.
Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah, we're not going to go too much into it. I have my thoughts about Monopoly, but whatever. So yeah, go ahead and listen to after the show. We'll give you our thoughts of Monopoly Socialism, which is a semi-co-op, which is kind of why it enters into the purview of this area, because there is cooperative elements. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and check us out after the episode. But we're going to end it here. That was 5 family weight games. Next week, we're going to have even more dice games. We're going to let Anthony loose in his roll and write glory. Hope you're looking forward to that, my man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hope you're looking forward to it.
Of course. Yes. I mean, it's an opportunity to get like a lot of games reviewed at once. So
yeah, right.
Content, baby. Am I going to play any of these games? Or I don't know. Anyway, I will play one of them, and we'll get to that next week. So, yeah, that was going to wrap it up for another episode of Every Night is Game Night. Anthony, welcome back. Looking forward to having you on for another couple of episodes. If you want to get in contact with the show, ENGN_podcast on the Twitter, everynightsgamenight.com, the sister of BoardGamersAnonymous.com. You can go ahead and check out the website. We have reviews and blogs and that kind of stuff there. Every Night is Game Night Facebook group. Like we said, we have multiple Slacks. You can access me and Anthony and everybody who's into the show. One Stop Co-op Shop Slack, PGA Slack through the Patreon. Anthony, I believe that is all the places where we can be contacted. Is that correct? Did I miss anything, sir?
No, you got them all, man. Good job.
Fantastic. All right, so that will do it for another episode. Until next week, this is Jason.
And this is Anthony.
Reminding you to grab a game off of that shelf and let's make every night a game night. All right, I am here with a friend of mine, Gary Pope. You heard his voice a couple weeks ago on the podcast, but we are back. A lot of us were mocked. We were mocked pretty hard before playing Monopoly Socialism right in the middle of a public space here in Newington, Connecticut. But Gary braved it with me. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, what's up, Jason? Thanks for having me here.
Woke up 5 minutes before. Oops.
Yeah, I literally am actually still wearing my semi-pajama, semi-going-out clothes right now. This is the kind of clothes that you like wake up at and go to the grocery store where you're just like, no one's going to see me. I hope no No one sees me at the grocery store, hopefully. So,
which should indicate the quality of analysis you're about to receive.
yeah,
All right. So we're going to break down Monopoly Socialism for you guys real quick. So this is a 2 to 4 player game. It is a Monopoly variant. It is doing at the root the similar stuff to what Monopoly does. There's spaces on the board. You roll 2 dice and you move. But that's actually where the similarities with Monopoly end. It's a different game. Would you agree it's like a different game than Monopoly?
Oh, yeah, it's a completely different game. One of the first things, and not to go into mechanisms before Jason explains, but one of the first things we noticed when we started playing was that midway through the game became a co-op. Like, it legit became a co-op at some point. So, but yeah, Jason should finish explain how the game works, though.
Yeah, it's a semi-co-op. So what does that mean? A semi-co-op is most of the game, for a significant chunk of the game, you are cooperating. And, you're kind of like figuring out really how to manage the community fund. You don't get a lot of personal money in this game. As soon as you get a little bit of personal money, it just goes away buying stuff. But most of the game operates off of a central pile of money, which I call it a lecture pile. So it's basically the game telling you, okay, here is $1,848. If you don't know why that dollar amount is, go ahead and Google 1848, see what you find. But you have $1,848 to pay for projects. So instead of properties, you have projects, and everybody benefits when you can fully develop your projects. So you get, a blank card, and along the way, you're going to be able to upgrade that thing. So you have personal chips, you put it on the project, and there's like, one space for 1 chip, 2 chips, 3 chips, depending on how valuable the property is. Once you fully develop, quote unquote, your property, then it starts to make the community money. Until then, you are suckling at the teat of the community bank. The game is definitely trying to make a point about, like, be good to the community pot and all that kind of stuff. So, hold on.
Sorry to interrupt. We are closing in a little bit.
Okay. How long is a little bit?
We close at 10 o'clock or whenever the legacy event finishes.
Oh, yeah, we'll be done by then. Cool. I may keep that in, who knows? The lengths that we will go to bring content to you guys. Keeping this place open. Okay, so that's the game. The game is, at least the first part of the game, what Gary was saying was like, you're going to buy projects and money's not going to come from you, it's going to come from the community pot. So it's like, woohoo, it's not my money. Making a statement about socialism, it's not my money, so I can spend it on whatever I want. And then towards the mid-game, you basically run out of money. So that's where the game becomes really interesting, because now people are kind of staring at each other. It's like, okay, are you going to be the one that bankrupts us?
That definitely happened a lot during this game, where it was just like, I'm not going to be the person that tanks this game. It's a really funny switch in the game, because at first it's just like, oh, you have so much money, you can just do whatever you want. But then right around the midway point, it's just like, hey, we're looking at $100 in that bank, and if we even just hit the wrong chance card, then that means the game's over. So yeah, it changes drastically in the middle of the game.
So then you auction for projects, and maybe the auction doesn't hit, and it's like, if you don't manage that central pot well, everybody loses, and that's kind of the co-op-ness of the game. So then eventually you will develop your projects, and then landing on those spots will bring in the money. So you're trying to make it past that point cooperatively, and then once you make it to the point where there's money actually coming in, then the game kind of turns and you're kind of rushing towards the end, and there is a single winner. So it's not like you win the game. So it's a very interesting rhythm. Let's talk about the game first, and then we'll talk about like the parody of it. We were surprised by how much we had fun with this game.
Yeah, like this. Now, coming from like a stance of like, oh, is this like a well-designed game or anything like that? Like, no, it's like it's not at all. It's Monopoly, but then just turned into a semi-co-op. That's really all it is. But the thing is, though, is the game fun, and that's usually all that matters at the end of the day. And I could probably already attest for Jason, but we honestly actually enjoyed ourselves while playing it. Very surprisingly, this has probably been the better Monopoly I've played in years. Like, this is over like the Gamer Monopoly, and a couple other random themed versions of it.
Monopoly for Millennials.
Yeah, I didn't even play that one, but it's like, this has been easily by far the best version of Monopoly I've played in a very long time.
And it's like, we only play with 2, which is the actual worst player count.
Yeah.
With 4 players, that pot will go down really, really fast, and then the whole table is arguing about who is going to be the one that tanks the game, who is going to be the irresponsible one that mismanages money, and that doesn't, I say it out loud, doesn't sound like that interesting, but when you're in the game and you're staring at the community pot and you want to try to win because you want to develop your projects and spend money, but there's no money in there. People are looking at you. It's a neat tension, and so the game mechanics aren't all that great. It's still roll and move and still lucky and whatever, but the tension that it creates and the discussion that it creates, I was really surprised.
Yeah, and not only that, on top of that, we finished this game in roughly about 45 minutes, too.
Yes.
Like, granted, yes, we were 2 players, and we're the kind of players where we kind of just go, we don't, like, sit here and mull over our thoughts and what we're going to do for, like, 20 minutes. But still, it's, like, 45 minutes to have, like, a fun little semi-co-op game like this. Like, that's, like, if someone was to say, Gary, would you rather be playing Monopoly Socialism or Dead of Winter, which are 2 semi-co-op games? I'm not going to lie, I would actually pick Monopoly Socialism over Dead of Winter, because Dead of Winter takes 45 minutes just to set up half the time, let alone you can finish the entire game Monopoly in that amount of time. So
well, I think the bloom has come off the rose on Dead of Winter. I don't see that being played very much. People realize it was really long. The cards don't proc as often as you want them, and whatever. Okay, so that was the game. Surprisingly, had interesting moments. We're not gonna say it's good. We're not gonna say you need to rush out and play it right now. But
for $20, it's like I wouldn't be upset with the purchase. I mean, like what would you say before we were talking on this show, Jace, with the purchase? Like, what you saying regarding the purchase? Like, you didn't mind it. Like, it's like, I would keep the game. Like, $20, why not?
Yeah, it's like $20. I'll keep it. It's Monopoly. Maybe I'll get a family member to play it. Who knows?
Let's say hypothetically, if you just played this tonight at the store and you didn't purchase this, would you go out and buy it after playing it?
That's an unfair question because I like co-ops. Like, I just want to own co-ops, and I don't mind.
Okay.
I don't mind. So, yeah. I'm not going to say go out and rush out and buy it, but it is not the dumpster fire that I thought it was.
Yeah.
So that is my glowing recommendation for Monopoly Socialism, the game.
Yeah.
So let's address the controversy. It didn't light the internet on fire like some of the other things, but there were some butthurt feelings. I think Eric Lang, especially the game designer, had a very popular Twitter thread kind of just explaining his stuff. Why is this game problematic? Why did it cause a little bit of hubbub?
Well, it's just mostly the chance cards. It's 90% of it is coming from the chance cards because the best way to describe it is that there's nothing that blatantly says socialism is stupid or anything along the lines of that, but there are a lot of jabs at it, and half the jabs, which is very weird to like mention, half the jabs are not even about socialism. It's like about millennials in general,
right,
or even like communism and stuff like that. It's like it's I would say out of all the chance cards, what would you say, Jason? Like maybe like 25% of them actually deal with socialism in some way, shape, or form. All the other ones are millennial communism sort of things.
Well, that's the jab of the game. Like, I mean, that millennials aren't serious.
Yeah.
Like, that all millennials want is, like, they read a book about socialist Russia and they want that in the United States.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of idea that if you're on, the capitalist right side or whatever you want to call it, that's how you see socialism, as a bunch of young, unserious people who want communist Russia back.
Yeah.
So, like, here you go, have communist Russia in this weirdo game that is weird. The humor is very browbeaty. The humor is very, this is kind of stupid. Do you really want that? We love quinoa bar. Do you really want the what was the good one that made Mike laugh? I forget what it was.
Oh my god. Was it the? I can't remember. Sorry.
Oh, the We All Rise Bakery. That's the one.
That's actually a good name. That's actually a clever name. We All Rise. That was actually probably the most cleverest thing in this entire game. Was the We All Rise Bakery. Store name. Besides that, everything else, I would say was not really clever. It was almost like one of those things where it was like, all right, guys, we're going to make this Monopoly Socialism game. We're going to sit in this meeting for 30 minutes to try coming up with our best things, and no one in there is a writer or anything along the lines of that, except for the person who made the We All Rise Bakery. Besides that, nothing was really clever. It was all just like you can watch like Fox News for like an hour and come up with half the jokes that were said in the game. So it was real lowbrow, I guess.
If Rush Limbaugh made a game, this would be it, with all the the browbeaty jokes and the how stupid or whatever. So I mean, I'll just like very, very simply, I don't want to kind of go on and on about this, but very simply, the idea is that this game punches down with its humor. It could have engaged with socialism as it is today. Young people trying to fight for Medicare for all, Green New Deal, fight to make a better world of what they think is a better world, and they're really serious about it. And yet this game comes out and basically says, nope, you're not that serious. This is you want communist Russia. It doesn't engage with people who are trying to do serious things, and it just kind of it's dismissive, it's belittling, and snowflakes need to get over it. Is going to be the response,
Yeah.
But
the thing is, though, is that even with like that sort of response where it's like, oh, they need to get over it, it's one of those things where it's like, but you could have at least made your jokes clever. That's the thing. That's the thing that annoyed me the most. It's like these jokes are not even clever. But besides that, I did enjoy the game. Like I would actually play this game. It doesn't bother me that much. It's just one of those things where it's like if you go to a bad comedy night. It's kind of like the impression that I get from reading the cards from, where it's just like, okay. But
at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if you really want to engage this in a parody like this, at least make the jokes clever.
Yeah.
Making the jokes clever would have solved a lot of problems. Because then, even a month, it's like, oh, yeah, that's kind of good.
Yeah, exactly.
We appreciate snarky humor wherever it goes.
Like the We All Rise Bakery. That's still coming back to that. That was actually clever. But besides that, it was real miss on all the jokes. Real miss on them.
So interesting as an art piece, interesting as a discussion piece. As a game, it's probably skippable at the end of the day, but I might keep it just because it's doing a little bit something different. Had a neat type of conversation that I don't usually have in a game. I don't have a game quite like this, so I might keep it around. But it's so happy to have been happy to have shared the experience with you, Gary. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Jason.